What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're discussing captaincy ahead of game week 16. I think there's maybe a little bit of a decision to be made this week. At least people are deciding between two main options, Salah versus Ronaldo. But obviously, there are some other options to consider as well. So we're going to do a quick video talking about it. If you do enjoy it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and let's jump into it. All right, so I've put up kind of the best options. I had to add a third one, so I've put in Lukaku because I think Leeds is always a good fixture. But the main two that people are looking at is between Salah and Ronaldo, right? Because a lot of people have now bought in Ronaldo because of the Spurs issues, the lack of forwards and stuff like that. I'll come on to that in a minute. In terms of the defences they're playing, obviously there's another narrative going around that Dean Smith has kind of made Norwich better, Steven Gerrard's made Villa better, they're now better defences and stuff like that. So I had a quick look at some of the numbers, right? So Norwich are 1.55 expected goals conceded so far this season per 90 minutes. So obviously that includes both managers, right? That's over the course of a season. That's the joint second worst in the league. So they're not a good defence, right? And Dean Smith might be a good manager, but he's still got the same players as previous manager had, right? And over the last 4 game weeks, they're the 4th best team, 2.1 expected goals conceded. Now, you've got to be careful. It can be dangerous to use very small sample size like that, and we'll look at who they've played in a minute. But there maybe has been a little bit of improvement. With Villa, they're the 10th best team, 1.24 expected goals conceded. So it's still not really a watertight defence, but better than Norwich. This isn't news, by the way. I think we knew that Norwich were one of the worst defences and Villa are better. And over the last 4 game weeks again, since Gerrard's been in, they've been the 7th best team. So they've actually been slightly worse than Norwich over the last 4 game weeks. They're 2.5 expected goals conceded. So I don't really know how much we should read into kind of last 4 weeks. Because if you look at Villa's fixtures, they play Brighton, they're pretty goal shy. Palace as well. I mean, Palace have done well this season, but I wouldn't say that I go into matches against them thinking they're going to score lots of goals, but they have done well in some matches. 3 goals against Spurs, 2 against Man City as well, I believe. Obviously, the Man City result was pretty good because Man City went 2-0 up, and then the second half, kind of Villa kind of kept it quite tight against them. And they beat Leicester as well, which is a good fixture. But again, they did concede in that game. And then with Norwich, if we go to their fixtures, obviously the first game was against Southampton. And to be honest, I'm not like, we won't go into whether they should have won that match or not, right? To be fair, they only conceded 1 goal, not bad. But again, Wolves not really massive goal scorers, right? For those of us that went for Jimenez, for Norwich and Burnley, right, you're kind of burnt a little bit. Newcastle, not a bad result. And obviously they shipped 3 to Spurs, right? So Man United can score goals just as well as Spurs. So I don't think that really... I don't think the last 4 game weeks tells us too much. And even if you consider that Norwich are the worst defence, or a worse defence than Villa... Learn to speak English. A worse defence than Villa. Liverpool are a better attack than Man United. So it kind of balances out. And you can see from the numbers that Salah is probably a better attacker than Ronaldo as well. At least these days, right? I'm not saying in the past and stuff like that. We don't need to get into that. His goal threat is higher from open play. They've both got penalties anyway. But Salah's assist threat is also much, much higher than Ronaldo's. And Liverpool, I just think, are a solid, fluid unit that know exactly what they're about. Man United, look, they won the game against Palace. There were some signs of improvement. But the expected goals they had was still only 1. So they weren't still a great attack. So for me, Salah is still the best captain option this week ahead of Ronaldo. Ronaldo's got the easier fixture, I would say. But Salah is the better player right now. So you can kind of decide however you want. This is being recorded before most of the press conferences. Dean Smith has had his press conference and he has said that some players are waiting on PCR tests because of possible COVID. So I don't think that game's necessarily going to get called off at this point, but they could be missing some first team players. So that might swing it back into Ronaldo's hands. The only thing I would say is, right, here's how I would think about captaincy this week. Because I think what's happened is a lot of people have been forced into getting Ronaldo. And now they're kind of talking themselves into him being a better captain. And I'm not saying it's a bad decision. It is a great fixture. Ronaldo's a great player. Right? I'm not saying that. So I would put it to you like this. Let's say you were free hitting this week, right, and you couldn't drop in rank. Forget about effective ownership. There's no way you can drop in rank. There's no one else. Don't worry about it. You're free hitting this week, but you can only have one of Salah or Ronaldo. Who are you going to choose? That should really dictate who your captain is going to be, right? Who is going to give you the biggest rank boost? Forget about falling in rank, right? You can't, in this scenario, you can't fall in rank. You can only go up. You can choose one player in your team. Is it going to be Salah? Is it going to be Ronaldo? Just for this week. Nothing else matters. You'll have all your free transfers afterwards as normal. Which one is it? and decide from that. For me, it's still going to be Salah. I think Ronaldo's good, but I think he's always going to be in a very similar fixture. Salah's always going to be ahead. And even when the fixture is better for Man United, Liverpool are just a better team in attack. So that's how I'm looking at it. But look, it could be one of those weeks where it's good to go against Salah. You go against the crowd. Ronaldo comes in, gets a brace, gets a hat-trick. Salah gets one return. Happy days. You go massively up the ranks. You have to decide on that. I haven't really talked about Lukaku. I don't think there's too much to talk about, really. He has been building his minutes up. Obviously started in the Champions League midweek. I would expect him to start this game, although I guess it's not guaranteed because he has been kind of brought back into the side after injury quite slowly. But Leeds, bad defence, 1.52 expected goals conceded over the season, 5th worst team. 5.3 expected goals conceded over the last 4. That makes them the 4th worst team. I'm not even going to look at what fixtures they played. It doesn't really matter. Leeds are a bad defence. Calvin Phillips is apparently out. Bamford's going to be out as well. All these things don't help. I think we had this earlier on in the season, though. Remember when... I can't remember who people were looking at for captain, but Leeds had a few injuries and suddenly everyone acted like they were going to forget how to play football. Like, it's not usually as bad as we think, but in general, Leeds just aren't a good defence. But Chelsea, on the other hand, are missing some midfielders, right? Kovacic is going to miss out. Kante is going to miss out. Jorginho may or may not be available. Let's see what Tuchel says in the press conference. And Chelsea aren't really functioning too well at the moment, I would say. But this is a great fixture, right? So if you're going to go against Salah, against Ronaldo, and obviously, you know, if we talk about Liverpool and Man United being good fixtures, then obviously players like Mane and Jota, you know, if they're available and fit and ready to play, they're also options, right? But I think Lukaku's probably the next best one. But I'm not sure I would go there. I think owning him is probably enough. Let's talk about some others. So let's just look at some few differentials, right? Different matches, apart from obviously Rhys James. I think Vardy against Newcastle is a good bet just because Newcastle is so poor. We're going to have to see if Rodgers mentions anything about him not being recovered, but he did get rested in the last league game, so I'd expect him to be able to play 2 in a row. The only thing I guess is there is then another fixture midweek. So if I just bring up Leicester fixtures, Newcastle, then Spurs. I don't know. I don't think Rodgers is going to be thinking, well, Newcastle we can win without Vardy. Let's keep him for Spurs. It's all going to be about recovery. So I think he probably does play the Newcastle game. But I guess if you're in doubt, then obviously he's not worth a captaincy. But Newcastle are just such a bad defence. And I just don't think Eddie Howe at any point is going to make them better. Unless they happen to sign loads of good defenders, midfielders in January or get them on loan. I just don't see Eddie Howe turning around. I think he wants to attack and be that team that is, you know, good on the eye. Well, they're in a relegation fight, right? But I just think Leicester can get a few goals in there. Again, Leicester, a bit like Chelsea maybe, not really a team that's functioning very well at the moment, but they can still score goals. So I think they'll be okay in that fixture. Vardy's an okay captain. Rhys James, just quickly, just to stick on the Chelsea thing, I think a lot of their issues are obviously down to the midfield area. Rhys James is going to be up against Firpo, though, and I think that's a pretty good battle, one that I think Rhys James will win, so they should be able to get forward quite a lot. And I think, again, without Bamford and players like that, and Calvin Phillips, like, they are big misses. They're probably the 3 best players, right? Calvin Phillips, Bamford and Rafinha, probably the 3 best players for Leeds. Meslier is obviously good in goal, you know, and Llorente, etc. in defence are decent enough. But the 3 main players, Phillips, Bamford, Rafinha, and they're missing 2 of them. Rhys James up against Firpo, who hasn't really, so far this season, looked great at all. I think he could cause him some trouble. And if you look at those numbers, by the way, those attacking numbers for Rhys James, again, they are probably going to come down as the season goes on. But 0.45 expected goal involvement is absolutely crazy. And it's higher than Bernardo Silva. And obviously, you've got clean sheet potential as well. Rafinha will have his say in that, I'm sure. But it could be a good, like, if you want to captain a fullback and you don't want to go obviously for the obvious Trent against Villa, then James could be good. Cancelo could be okay against Wolves as well. But I just like that matchup, Rhys James versus Firpo or Firpo. Probably pronouncing that wrong. And Bernardo Silva, look, the only reason I put him in is because Man City are always a good captaincy shout, and he got rested midweek, so he's pretty much certain to play in this game. Again, in a one-game game shootout, if Foden looks like starting, if Gundogan looks like starting, then to me they are better options than Bernardo Silva. I know he's done really well so far. Surely this run of the amount of returns, the sheer volume of returns he's getting is unsustainable. It doesn't make him a bad option, right? His numbers are okay, and he's guaranteed, not guaranteed, but at the moment he is playing 90 minutes pretty much every single week. So he's going to keep ticking over with points. But in terms of captaincy, he probably wouldn't be the first Man City name on the list. I hate to say it. I'm not saying I won't bring him in anytime soon. I'm not saying you shouldn't bring him in. But as a captaincy choice, I think Gundogan and players like Foden are just more likely to get more points in any given game week. But it's all going to depend on what Pep says. So for me, out of these two, I think Vardy's probably the best. I think James, if you really want like a cheeky differential, and Bernardo Silva, if you think he can, everything he hits is going to keep going in the back of the net. So there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm not going to be necessarily doing captaincy every single week, especially with the quick turnarounds, but I think there is genuinely a consideration that people are making between Salah and Ronaldo this week, and maybe some others. Maybe you're going to go for a Lukaku punt or Rhys James, whatever it might be. Let me know in the comments below who you are captaining. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. I will be back later on for the deadline stream ahead of the Friday deadline. Do not forget that. I'll see you later.